show host of the year, and if you didn't know, well, now you know. And thank you to Big Events and to everybody who voted. We're most grateful. Happy birthday to you, late Pastor Chris Ashong, and to you, Mrs. Crab, for this one. Now, let's talk about some mental health issues, because Wednesday is a mental health day. But how sustainable are financing issues? We know that budgetary allocations, even for the Mental Health Authority, never gets to them. But what are the inside story? I've been joined this morning by Wendy Abe. She's technical advisor, Human Rights Advocacy Center. Also, Fred Nantoma is a knowledge management and communications officer. And we're talking about young people and mental health in a changing world. The abuse of tramadol, for example, is disturbing. Guys, welcome. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Great. Let's start with you, Wendy, on this. You're a technical advisor on human rights issues. If you look at the mental health landscape, the non-availability of funds and the right support systems, are we going to get out of the quagmire of mental health anytime soon?
Thank you very much. I think it's possible we'll get out of the quagmire. It's not a dead end yet. And I'm saying that because recently there has been a lot of push from civil society organizations to look into how government can really take pragmatic steps to financing mental health. There are existing policies speaking to the fact that we need to do more in terms of strengthening institutions that respond to mental health issues.
It boils down to implementation.
Exactly.
Are we implementing as much as we're producing policies?
We've come far, but there's still a lot to be done. And particularly concentrating on young people, there seems to be a very huge gap. Young people have their own issues when it comes to mental illness.
Right.
There are several levels. I mean, you just mentioned tramadol, which is just one aspect of it, how young people abuse drugs and all that. But there are day-to-day issues, particularly young people transitioning, you know, from teenage years into young adulthood and all that. The World Health Organization, for example, reports that depression is actually the third most leading cause of illness amongst young people. You know, so we're looking at the general upbringing of young people, social pressures they face, they are transitioning into young adulthood, and also the extent at which you have targeted programs that seek to address their issues at their levels.
Let's talk about this, Fred. So we're supposed to have a gender, children and social protection ministry. This would fall under the health ministry and under social protection as well, because how do we protect the young people? If you look at the kind of training we give to our people in terms of training they get from home and from school, would you say that they are better placed to skip this hurdle of mental health if it comes knocking on their door?
Well, mental health is something that will stay with us, or mental health issues is something that will stay with us so far as we remain humans, and we still have brains to function. It's not a one-off event, and so it is a work in progress. With regards to the issue of if the ministry or the kind of upbringing we have for our children right now, I think it's a matter for broader discussion.
What do you know? What do you see?
What we see is that we live in a fast-changing world. Parents need to make ends meet. Government is running the country with the limited resources they have. We as parents need to do our part in order to be able to ensure that young children have the appropriate care available. At this point in time, we don't. And we need to do more. We need to do a lot more. For instance, if you compare the budgetary allocation which the mental health system in Ghana benefits, it's 1.2 to 1.5% of the Ghana Health Service budget. And that is woefully inadequate. If you compare with countries like the UK, which, by the way, are still complaining that they do not still have enough resources, they spend about 6% of the national budget on mental health services, just for young people. And so you would understand that we still need to do a lot more in order to even begin to change the system. But we must, I must add, just like Wendy has mentioned. The situation was far worse.
Okay.
We are now in a position
where...
Are
we tickling ourselves to laugh because I see still mad people on the streets or mentally challenged persons on the streets? I still see, I get a lot of people come to me to talk to me. Youngsters who come to talk to me, they have problems. Somebody has gotten pregnant at 17. They are contemplating whether to abort or not. That level of depression is real. It exists. I have had young people who perhaps have gone to pilfer from their parents, and so they don't want to go home. They have suddenly become street children. They have a mental situation at hand. So I think we're tickling ourselves to laugh. Wendy, is that a position you want to agree with?
Thank you very much. I think that it's a more of a holistic approach that we don't have.
Okay.
You mentioned examples of, let's say, a young lady who has gotten pregnant.
Right.
We are trying, for example, when it comes to sexual and reproductive health rights, we are trying to have youth-friendly centers for sexual and reproductive health rights. But then the question would be, how do we integrate mental health into such issues?
Right.
I mean, such intervention.
Okay.
So it's a matter of integration. You could be working around providing those kind of communities for young people where they can walk in for sexual and reproductive health information and services. But then we forget that that young person walking into that particular center comes with a condition that affects him or her mentally.
Right.
So it's a matter of having that perspective to see that mental health runs throughout every form of our daily lives and makeup. And what the little bit we need to do to bring the difference about integrating services.
Integrating. Let's talk to Fred finally. The issue of stigma is very key. I mean, a lot of people don't know that the Accra Psychiatric Hospital, for example, has an OPD department. I can walk in and get treated for malaria or for diabetes or whatever it is. But as soon as people see me walk through that gate, they will have a certain thing. Oh, we saw him at the mental hospital. Perhaps that's why when he comes on TV, he talks too much. People think, are we gotten away from the stigma? Are we getting away? You say we're making progress.
Yes.
How much progress are we making in the area of
We've
stigmatization?
made tremendous progress. Now, I speak from the point of view of, let's go back 15 years.
Okay.
Mental health was something you couldn't even talk about, or mental illness and the challenges people with mental illness face.
Okay.
A lot of health workers even did not want to be associated with mental health.
Okay.
And even when people from the mental health institutions graduated, some hospitals reoriented their services in other departments.
Right.
So we've made great strides to today where you feel comfortable inviting us to talk about mental health on national TV.
I've always invited people since I started 15 years ago.
I'm just saying that it's something that we should be proud of.
Right.
But we shouldn't think it is the end.
Right.
People are still suffering from stigma.
Great. I'm grateful to you. We got very little time. Thank you very much, Wendy Abe. She's Technical Advisor, Human Rights Advocacy Center. Grateful for your time.